You can sense it long before anyone speaks. The air in the room thickens, movements slow, glances sharpen into measurements. Power, true power, is never loud. It does not announce itself with the crash of ambition or the desperate rhythm of persuasion. It arrives like a change in temperature, subtle, almost imperceptible, but undeniable once you feel it. It alters the pulse of a place. People adjust their tone without realizing why. Conversations fold around it. The unspoken begins to rule. That, Machiavelli would say, is the highest form of command, power so disciplined it no longer needs volume to be obeyed. You have seen this before, in leaders who rarely raise their voices, in those whose silence feels heavier than another man's speech. They do not compete to be heard, because they already expect to be listened to. They do not seek approval, because they know attention is a currency best hoarded, not spent. They are the quiet ones who walk through chaos as if surrounded by glass, untouched by the noise that consumes others. You wonder how they do it, what secret they keep hidden behind their calm faces. The answer, Machiavelli would whisper, is not charm or genius but discipline. The discipline to say nothing until the moment when words become weapons, to remain unreadable until the battlefield tilts in their favor. From childhood you were taught that strength expresses itself, that honesty means openness, that leadership requires presence. You were taught to believe that the loudest truth will always conquer the loudest lie. Yet the world has never worked that way. The loud are predictable, and the predictable are defeated. Every declaration reveals a weakness. Every outburst betrays desire. Every explanation offers ammunition. Silence, on the other hand, conceals all three. It keeps the enemy guessing, the ally uncertain, the audience intrigued. In a world addicted to noise, silence becomes rare, and what is rare becomes valuable. Machiavelli understood that silence is not the absence of voice, but the mastery of it. It is the art of making other people speak first, of forcing them to reveal what they guard most, their motives, their fears, their impatience. He observed that men expose themselves not when they are questioned, but when they fill the void that follows a question left unanswered. Silence, therefore, is not withdrawal. It is provocation disguised as restraint. The one who controls the silence controls the truth that emerges to fill it. Consider the ones who speak too soon. They show you their hunger to be believed, their anxiety to be accepted. They mistake movement for progress and explanation for clarity. They tell you everything before you ask, thinking that transparency earns trust. Machiavelli would have smiled sadly at such innocence. A prince, he wrote, who depends on the opinion of others becomes their prisoner. Every time you explain yourself, you hand the keys of your perception to someone else. You invite interpretation. You create dependency on approval. And dependency, in the game of power, is fatal. To remain silent is to remain ungraspable. People fear what they cannot read. Fear creates distance, and distance is a throne. When you are unreadable, you become the projection surface for every imagination. Some will admire you, some will resent you, all will calculate you, but none will control you. That is why Machiavelli's coldest strategy begins not with action, but with observation. Speak little. Move slower than you wish. Let others commit to their words while you commit to outcomes. Because the one who listens longest rules longest. Most misunderstand Machiavelli, believing he glorified cruelty or deceit. But what he truly studied was survival. He lived in a world of courtly betrayal and sudden reversals, a world where sincerity was often suicide. His wisdom was born not from cynicism, but from clarity. Men are not guided by fairness, but by fear, ambition, and vanity. If you wish to survive among them, you must learn to navigate appearances, to appear harmless until you strike, to appear generous while keeping your resources untouched, to appear calm even when your plans are burning in secret. Silence is the skin of those appearances, the fabric that holds them together. You have felt the cost of breaking it. Every time you reacted to an insult, every time you rushed to defend your worth, every time you explained a decision to someone who hadn't earned the right to understand it, you traded power for peace of mind and ended up with neither. Reaction is the language of the powerless. Silence is the dialect of the sovereign. The one who reacts exposes himself to manipulation, while the one who stays silent becomes the mirror in which others expose themselves. When your enemies grow desperate to interpret your stillness, they start fighting phantoms of their own creation, and you win without moving. Imagine two negotiators across a table. One speaks relentlessly, justifying, persuading, begging reason to prevail. The other listens, unmoved, his expression a mask of calm. With each sentence, the talker loses ground. His words become confessions. His gestures reveal fear. The silent one gathers information, reading insecurity as easily as a map. When he finally speaks, it will not be to debate, but to decide. The outcome will appear inevitable, yet it began with nothing more than silence. Machiavelli understood this dynamic perfectly. "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally," he wrote. "The wise man listens first, because listening is the act of preparation, and preparation makes victory appear effortless." You may think silence is passivity, but in truth it is concentration, potential energy waiting for precision. It is the bow drawn back before the arrow's release. Each moment of withheld reaction strengthens your position. Each pause multiplies the gravity of what you will eventually say. When silence precedes speech, speech acquires the weight of prophecy. When restraint precedes action, action acquires the authority of inevitability. That is why the powerful rarely rush. The longer they wait, the more their decision seems divine, but power demands sacrifices. The first is comfort. Silence creates distance, and distance is often mistaken for arrogance. You will lose the warmth of those who need constant reassurance. They will accuse you of pride, of detachment, of coldness. Let them. Machiavelli warned that a leader must be willing to be hated by some in order to be respected by all. Affection is cheap. Awe is priceless. Silence transforms affection into awe because it forces others to imagine depth where none is shown. The second sacrifice is predictability. To remain silent is to abandon the security of being understood. It is to live without the narcotic of constant validation, yet only in that uncertainty does real command emerge. The powerful are not those who are loved for their transparency. They are those who are obeyed despite their mystery. When people cannot read you, they watch you, and when they watch you, you have already won their attention, the first currency of power. So begin now. Withdraw words like a ruler withdrawing currency from circulation. Spend them only where they yield profit. When provoked, pause. When accused, observe. When praised, remain still. Let the silence expand until others reveal what they truly believe. Speak only when breaking the silence will alter the outcome, not when it will merely satisfy your ego. Because every unnecessary word is a door left open, and open doors invite thieves. Machiavelli's world may have worn cloaks and crowns, but yours wears suits and screens. Yet the same law governs both. Control of information is control of destiny. In his time, silence protected lives. In yours, it protects reputation, influence, and opportunity. The less you reveal, the more they project. The more they project, the more you control. You must learn to see silence not as emptiness, but as architecture, the invisible structure holding together every empire. It separates emotion from judgment, impulse from decision, and noise from meaning. The one who can endure that emptiness, who can walk through the void without rushing to fill it, possesses something rarer than charisma or genius. He possesses gravity, and gravity cannot be faked. That is why the quiet rise while the loud are forgotten. The world remembers those who spoke when silence would have sufficed, but it obeys those who mastered the silence until their words became command. In the next part, we will descend deeper into this discipline, how silence turns from defense to dominance, how the Machiavellian uses absence as pressure, and how the cold strategist bends loyalty without ever asking for it. For now, remember this: noise seeks attention, silence creates it, and the one who creates attention already rules it. Power is not seized through words, it is maintained through stillness. The moment you speak too much, explain too deeply, or react too quickly, you begin to lose control of the narrative. The true Machiavellian knows this instinctively. He does not rush to justify, to clarify, to soothe. He waits. He observes the temperature of the room, the weakness behind the words, the cracks in another person's confidence. He measures silence as a surgeon measures the distance between blade and vein. Every moment of restraint becomes a weapon drawn tighter, sharper, deadlier. You see, most people live enslaved by noise. They drown in the compulsion to respond, to text back, to explain, to prove they exist. They equate visibility with value, thinking that being constantly seen makes them relevant, that being constantly available makes them important. But Machiavelli would have warned them, the constantly visible are constantly vulnerable. The one who cannot disappear will one day be devoured. True power comes from the ability to vanish at will, to withdraw not in weakness, but in deliberate ambiguity. The absence of explanation terrifies the insecure, and in their confusion they reveal themselves. In the courts of Florence, Machiavelli observed rulers who ruled not by decree, but by distance. They understood the power of hesitation, how silence creates pressure, how ambiguity breeds obedience. When people do not know what you will do next, they begin to imagine, and what they imagine often serves you better than anything you could have said aloud. The threat of action is sometimes more powerful than action itself. A silent adversary is more feared than an angry one, for anger can be predicted, but stillness is unreadable. That unreadability, that aura of control, is what separates the leader from the leadee, the predator from the prey. You must learn to let discomfort work for you. Let others talk themselves into weakness. Let them interpret your silence as superiority. Humans fear uncertainty more than violence. They will do anything to make the unknown known, even surrender. Machiavelli called this the economy of perception. The principle that power belongs not to those who act the most, but to those whose restraint forces others to act first. Every unspoken word, every withheld reaction, every unread message becomes a test of who breaks first, and whoever breaks first loses command. There is a moment, subtle but visible, when people begin to orbit you. They start to adjust their words, to moderate their tone, to seek your response. They begin to ask themselves what you think, what you mean, what you will do next. That is the birth of influence, when your silence becomes a gravitational field, pulling the behavior of others into alignment without a single instruction. The weak try to dominate through argument. The strong dominate through atmosphere. In this world, noise has become the currency of insecurity. The more uncertain someone feels, the louder they become. The more fragile their ego, the more they advertise their strength. It is a cycle of self-exposure that Machiavelli would have recognized instantly. The one who shows all his cards, he would say, invites his own defeat. You must learn the opposite art, concealment as persuasion. Speak enough to anchor trust, reveal enough to invite curiosity, but never expose the core of your intention. The heart of power must remain untouchable, invisible, sacred. And this is where silence transcends survival and becomes strategy. Silence alone is not enough. It must be directed like an arrow. You must decide when to hold it, when to break it, when to let it shatter the air around you like thunder. A silent man is mysterious, but a man who speaks once in 100 moments becomes myth. Each word echoes longer because it arrives surrounded by the memory of restraint. This is how Machiavelli described great rulers. They moved rarely but decisively, and because their decisions were rare, the world mistook calculation for destiny. Imagine a negotiation, a confrontation, a betrayal. The average person will fight for their dignity in the open field of argument, shouting to prove innocence or superiority. The Machiavellian, however, will simply go quiet. He will watch the storm unfold and wait until exhaustion breaks the opponent's rhythm. Then, when silence has suffocated every word, he will move, one gesture, one phrase, one signature, and the entire situation will shift in his favor. That is the precision of timing Machiavelli admired, the art of doing less and achieving more, of appearing effortless while everyone else bleeds energy into noise. But this discipline demands sacrifice. To master silence, you must kill your need for recognition. You must learn to walk through moments of misunderstanding without protest, to let others misjudge you without flinching. The powerful do not rush to correct perception. They let perception work for them. The rumor becomes the smokescreen. The misinterpretation becomes the decoy. People believe what serves their vanity, and sometimes their vanity serves your purpose. The one who insists on being understood becomes a servant to those who misunderstand him. The one who remains silent turns misunderstanding into camouflage. Machiavelli knew this intimately. In exile, stripped of influence, he learned that a man's silence can outlast his reputation. His letters reveal not desperation, but observation. He waited in stillness while others plotted. History eventually remembered him not as the fallen bureaucrat, but as the mind that defined the very language of power. His voice survived because it was measured, written not in panic, but in poise. That is what silence does. It allows time to work for you instead of against you. The impatient exhaust themselves in the present. The silent plant their roots in eternity. To cultivate this cold strategy, you must begin where most fail, with the mastery of reaction. Every time you answer anger with anger, you become predictable. Every time you rush to defend yourself, you confirm that you can be provoked. The one who can remain composed while others rage holds an invisible whip over the crowd. Silence, in the face of chaos, is dominance disguised as peace. It does not mean you are weak. It means you are waiting. Learn to look at every confrontation as a stage. Others will perform. You will direct. Their noise will reveal their roles. Your stillness will define your authority. Power, at its core, is not the ability to speak. It is the ability to decide when speaking ends the performance. There is a reason the greatest generals, CEOs, and negotiators pause before answering. The pause is not hesitation, it is theater. It is the invisible line that separates command from reaction. You will also discover that silence carries a strange paradox. It attracts loyalty while instilling fear. People will begin to project their desires onto you. They will imagine that your calm hides kindness, or that your distance hides wisdom. Some will worship that mystery, others will resent it. Let them. Both reactions serve you. Admiration brings voluntary obedience. Resentment brings carefulness. Machiavelli advised that a ruler must avoid being hated, but he never said one should avoid being feared. Fear, when born from respect, maintains order. Silence, when combined with composure, generates precisely that kind of fear, not terror, but tension. If you wish to lead, begin by mastering this duality. Be warm in gesture but measured in speech. Listen with the patience of a predator, not the eagerness of a servant. Let others exhaust themselves explaining what they believe you want to hear, while you learn what they actually think. The loud expose themselves, the quiet acquire information. In politics, business, and human relations, knowledge is control, and control wrapped in silence becomes absolute. Machiavelli also warned that fortune favors those who dare, but he never said they must shout while daring. Boldness and noise are not the same. Boldness is movement at the right time. Noise is movement without timing. The silent strategist waits for the precise second when fortune blinks, and in that blink, he acts. The world calls it luck, but it is simply the result of discipline unseen. At some point, you will begin to notice a transformation. Silence that once felt heavy becomes light. You no longer need to speak to feel significant. You no longer seek validation to confirm existence. You walk into a room and the energy changes without intention. People notice you not because you demand attention, but because you deny it. You answer questions with looks, not paragraphs. You end conflicts with a glance, not an argument. You operate like gravity, unseen but inescapable. This is the state Machiavelli imagined for the ideal ruler, not a tyrant of noise, but a sovereign of composure. And yet, there is one final refinement to this art, the ability to choose when to break the silence, because silence without strategy becomes absence, and absence, when misused, becomes irrelevance. The key is contrast. The moment you finally speak after long restraint, your words strike like a bell in an empty cathedral. They cut through the noise because people have learned to crave them, that craving is your power. Speak rarely, but when you do, make it irreversible. In the modern world, this translates into leadership that feels magnetic yet minimal. The one who always speaks loses attention. The one who waits commands it. The one who floods the world with opinions fades into the background. The one who withholds creates demand. This is not mystery for mystery's sake. It is economy of impact. The fewer the words, the greater their weight. And so you begin to live differently. You plan in silence, move in silence, win in silence. You speak when silence has built the perfect echo. Your competitors shout their triumphs while you study their fatigue. Your enemies mistake your patience for fear, and when they finally move, they reveal themselves. By the time they understand your intent, the game has already ended. That is the coldest elegance of all, to let others exhaust themselves on your silence while you sculpt outcomes in the shadows. This is the final layer of Machiavelli's cold strategy. When silence becomes so complete that even victory makes no noise. The most dangerous power is not the one that declares itself. It is the one that leaves others guessing long after the battle has been won. You reach a point where the world argues about your motives while you sleep peacefully, knowing that mystery itself is your legacy. And so I leave you with this. Silence is not emptiness. It is architecture, calculation, and command. It is the mark of those who have outgrown the need to be understood and have entered the realm of being obeyed. The next time you feel the urge to react, to explain, to be seen, remember Machiavelli's whisper through the centuries. He who controls his tongue controls his throne. Tell me then, are you ready to rule your silence before it rules you? If you are, leave a comment below. I move in silence, and if this voice resonates within you, subscribe, not for noise, but for wisdom sharpened by the quiet, because one day you'll understand that silence was never weakness. It was strategy, it was power, and it was always watching.